why Passito di Pantelleria is so particular, because it's really like a Mediterranean scrub, burst of like sunlight. And I always say like it's when you drink it, it's almost like a warmth of sunset as well.
I'm Wendy Holloway, and you're listening to the Flavor of Italy podcast, sharing the very best of Italian food and wine, lifestyle, and people.
Speaking about Sicily, it's really a rich region, and there's so much to tell and show around. But today we will focus more on the island of Pantelleria, which is really, like a black gem of Mediterranean, we could say, because Pantelleria belongs to Sicily, but it's closer to Africa than to Sicily. And I would say that the climate there is always Mediterranean, but like it's characterized by crazy winds. It's always windy there. I must say that this year at the end of June, I was there, and most probably I got into only one day in the year when there was no wind. It was so weird, but like generally it's very windy and very, very hot. So we speak about Pantelleria as a volcanic island. Also, if last eruption was like underwater at the end of 19th century, but like the evidence that it's a volcanic you can get everywhere, because because it's different from Sicily, it's different like from what we perceive as like island beaches. There are no sandy beaches. Like there are only like black volcanic rocks. So you don't get a lot of like tourism as well, because it's great because you don't have like those crowds everywhere. You don't have like a fully covered piazza with people like bursting around. No, it's a completely different pace. I would say it's a very like raw and almost like I call it like elemental, because like it's very, I would say somehow like almost like Nordic, because of like the nature and things, how they are there, but at the same time like bursting with energy and this like volcanic vibe, and the energy of Mediterranean scrub, because then we have like the black volcanic soil, but a lot of course, Mediterranean plants, caper plants that are like, growing like from a rock. So it's really beautiful. Then like the traditional houses they have there called dammusi, which are built from volcanic stone, and they have these particular roofs which allow to collect water, because it doesn't rain almost never there, and so the shortage of water is something that they struggle with, and this affects also agriculture, of course, because no one irrigates basically the plants because there's a shortage of water. And if we speak about agriculture in Pantelleria, as on Mount Etna, which is another volcanic territory, in Pantelleria we speak about heroic viticulture, absolutely, because of the very difficult conditions to work. It's very difficult and back-breaking, I would say. Everything is done with the manual work only, and also because there are a lot of volcanic rock terraces, and
So
not
then,
a lot of.
just to understand, so then the vineyards are kind of growing terraced.
Yes, exactly.
Which makes it heroic, because to actually harvest and have these grapes and wonderful wines, you you have to be a hero. That's kind of where the word came from, right, Helen?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because because you're really struggling, not only to harvest, but also like to do like your daily operations. You can't go inside as like with the normal like trellis system as foliar. When you go inside with a tractor, no. Here you do like maybe you have like a manual little tool like a rototiller. You need to get rid of some grasses and so on, and like even like spraying like copper, sulfur, all this is only manual. A little bit as on Mount Etna as well, because like there's actually like a lot of like parallelism between Mount Etna and Pantelleria because of volcanic, and also because of the type of the vines, of the system, how they grow them. Because if we speak about Pantelleria, we have also these very particular, beautiful alberello pantesco. And alberello pantesco, which is from 2014, also under UNESCO Heritage, so protected by UNESCO. When we say alberello pantesco, what it means is basically a very low trained bush vine, so single bush vine. That's why in Italian, alberello, like a little tree. And in Pantelleria, they grow them very low, and generally grapes are almost like covered also like by leaves, because we want to protect the grapes and the vines from very strong sun and very, very strong winds. So this is one of the characteristics that makes everything even more special there as well. And
There must be a lot of like windsurfing going on, taking advantage of all the wind.
there is some, but actually not so much, because there are no beaches. There are only rocks. So that doesn't help. So that doesn't help with the with
Sure.
like entering. But speaking of windsurfing, but we will speak about that later. But windsurfing is a huge thing in Marsala area actually, because we have constant winds there too.
Ah,
So
okay.
there's more than one connection. You see, even windsurf.
Exactly. I do see. Yeah. So tell us about the Passito, which you were explaining to me. That's really a great holiday wine. It's sweet and goes nice with like biscotti, the cantucce, and so many things over the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. When we speak about Passito di Pantelleria, and I will go into like what is the grape and like where are the specific characteristics of the production as well, just in a minute. But yeah, speaking about the pairings is actually a curious thing, because we would go easily for like classics like panettone or exactly biscotti, or like here in Sicily we have this typical biscuit, and now is the season because the festivities are approaching, and it's called bucellato. So it's a biscuit. Inside we have chocolate, we have dried figs, different kind of dry nuts, and maybe like fig jam or orange peel. So all these flavors and smells actually resonate so much with the Passito di Pantelleria, because when we speak about Passito di Pantelleria, we can find different types, because depending on how long it ages, the longer it ages, more complex it becomes. And we can definitely find a lot of citrus and a lot of dried fruit and a lot of figs, dates, and so on. And all this, when we speak about the pairings, we need to think that, first of all, to pair a sweet wine, dessert wine, we need to pair it with a dessert which is not sweeter than a wine. And I would always go for something that is like dark chocolate driven, and also even cassata siciliana, so ricotta based cake, not too sweet, because there are people who make it very sweet, overly sweet. But like my father-in-law, he makes the most delicious cassata. But this, you know how it works. Like in familia, things are always the best.
Absolutely.
And the cassata is really a perfect match with the Passito di Pantelleria too, because there's ricotta, which is not overwhelmingly sweet. Then we have like candied orange peel, dark chocolate, like sponge of like a cake sponge, which is like moist and juicy. So this is one of those perfect pairings from my point of view. But then also, if we think of something like more out of the box, I would go also with aged cheeses like pecorino, so sheep cheese, and maybe like pair it with apricot jam or like orange jam that resonates again with the passito, with some notes in passito.
So would you have that then, if you're pairing it with cheese, would you have it then as your kind of appetizer?
Yes, absolutely. Because
Sure,
the
that's a
thing about
great idea. That's a great
the
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Passito, but also Marsala, we will speak about that like later. But these wines are, like the perception is about sweet wines or like they are dessert wines and that's it. But like why we need to be like so strict, with the classic pairing rules and so on, because where there's like so much of space like to play around and explore. And because the chapter of pairings of wine and food, it's a man's story. And a lot of times like even a single ingredient can change, can really change the outcome, the result of the pairing. So another curious pairing, also as aperitivo, would be with something that has anchovies in it. I don't say like crostini with butter and anchovies, because that goes like with Chenin Blanc or Grillo or something more like acidity driven. But like something with botarga, something with anchovy, maybe like a kind of aperitivo, which is like a starter with the breadcrumbs and some butter and anchovy. This will go also so well. Here in Palermo, there's one restaurant and it's called Ayamola, fish-based restaurant, and the chef Tiziana, she proposes as a dessert, indeed, this ice cream, which is made of butter with a base of breadcrumbs and on top anchovy. And this is a dessert. Can you imagine? And like this
Wow.
goes, this goes so well with passito or some of dry styles of marsala as
Is
well.
it good? Is it good? Have you've had it?
It's Yes, absolutely. Every time I go there, I will have it, and it's her
Because
like
I love
signature dish.
anchovies. I love
Me too.
anchovies. Well, when I'm coming to Palermo in the spring, we'll have to go there together.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, basically, speaking about the pairings, like there's so much to explore, and definitely with like cheeses, of course, the blue veined cheeses, like a nice Stilton as well, would work very well with the passito, with the sweeter style passito, absolutely, and. Yeah, so then the rest is, fantasy. If we speak about the classic pairings, that desserts, and oh yeah, another pairing that I forgot to mention is also, like fegatini pate, for example, or like classic foie gras. That's also
I
like a
was just
crostino.
going to say that because in France, that would be the typical pairing to
Yeah.
have a sweet wine. So
Yeah.
just as you were speaking, I was thinking, foie gras, yes, yes.
Yeah, but then another thing is to mention, like more technical, is like serving temperature, which is also very important for these kinds of wines. Like we need to treat Passito di Pantelleria a little bit as white wine. So basically the temperature would be 10, 12. And also same with like serving glass, which I would recommend to use always white wine glass, not little, liquor glasses, because that's like I don't know, that's like good for vino di casa or something like that, or like, shottino somewhere in trattoria, va bene. But then if we are having such a glorious, such a complex wine as Passito, we need to give it also like opportunity to this wine to open up. And that is why we need to have like a proper glass, which is standard white wine glass would go very well.
So,
But in,
like your basic tulip glass.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you
exactly.
you can really see the color and the aroma. That's the best way to experience it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we've discussed a little bit of pairings, and when I was thinking about Pasito and like the upcoming holidays, Christmas, New Year's Eve coming, and like my idea was like for pairings was also, not only like to pair it with something, but also like to use this wine maybe to surprise family and friends and tell a story, because wine is always a story, no? And it's also like a story about this volcanic island, which is raw and really incredible, like because there are so many different Passito wines around Italy. But why Passito di Pantelleria is so particular? Because it's really like a Mediterranean scrub burst of like sunlight, and I always say like it's when you drink it, it's almost like a warmth of sunset as well. And then in Passito di Pantelleria, you will always have this like saline, very, very pronounced saline note that like elevates the freshness in the wine. And so you will never get that like cloying, syrupy sensation that you can get sometimes with like, dessert wines and sweet wines. When you drink them and you're like, okay, now I need a glass of water to get rid of that like sensation in my throat. With the Passito di Pantelleria, this will never happen, because we have these winds, we have the salt from the sea, we have this like salt-driven influence that really affects the outcome of wine and makes it also like even more like long-lasting on the palate. And all this concentration of flavors, of elevated salinity, sapidity, this also allows actually the wine to age better. These are the wines that you can easily, like just store them for 20 years and so on. Like you can easily do that because they will never get like spoiled. But speaking about the grape. We are speaking about Passito di Pantelleria, but we haven't mentioned the grape, which wine is made from. So, if we speak the main protagonist for Passito di Pantelleria and only grape which is allowed to use is Zibibo. Zibibo, which is a name that is mentioned more in Sicily. Actually, it's quite ancient grape, because the first mentionings of this grape goes back to 16th century in Sicily, and only after 17th century it was like written that is the same grape variety, also known as Moscato d'Alessandria. Moscato d'Alessandria nowadays we can find it not only in Sicily, also in Sardinia, somewhere in south of France and north of Africa. Because speaking about Pantelleria, there's a lot of influence from Arabic countries and Arabic culture as well. And even the name Zibibo comes from Arabic word zabib, which means sun-dried grape, actually. So even this like somehow like gives us an information that this is something that was done historically. It's not a new invention, to make a wine with sun-dried grapes. And as a Moscato d'Alessandria or Zibibo, this is aromatic grape variety, and this variety in particular is very different from Moscato Bianco, whereas Moscato Bianco, which is a Moscato that we can find easily all over Mediterranean, Zibibo has more thick skins, and so this allows also us, to sun dry, to dry these grapes under the sun, and they don't go they won't be spoiled so easily. So the process that we do in Pantelleria in order to produce Passito di Pantelleria, basically a part of the grapes or the whole amount of harvested grapes are placed on drying racks to dry under the sun. Then of course, during the nights they are covered and so on. So this process takes place around in August when we do the harvest, and then after the grapes are dried, the whole grapes, or sometimes also actually those are the styles that I prefer, where we have a little bit more freshness, where only a part of sun-dried grapes is used. They are added to fresh must, so the fresh Zibibo must. And so we have this great, balance where you have the sweetness from sun-dried grapes, but then also you have the freshness from fresh wine. So this, to me, is
nice.
Yeah, also the wines that I will mention later, most of them, they do this nowadays, because this is the one of the ways how we can avoid actually that annoying sweet sensation, too sweet, being too syrupy. So also because nowadays the preferences of consumers are changing as well. I think everybody's looking for, a little bit of freshness, a little bit of elevated freshness on the palate, which is a very, very gastronomic approach as well. So, and basically, there are several rules for production of Passito di Pantelleria. So first of all, the alcohol degree should be not less than 14 degrees, and then the minimum for the aging is 1 year, for example. And then even aging, there are wineries that can age wines in oak barrels, some only in steel. This is very, very personal, because everybody decides on their own. Yeah.
You've been listening to the Flavor of Italy podcast. Find us at www.flavorofitaly.com and on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and LinkedIn, always as Flavor of Italy.